Hello, everyone, and good morning. I know it is a little bit early probably when you are watching this, but we had to come in bright and early today because our guest is going to be amazing. As always, you are watching on location. My name is Gabby, and today I'm joined by Jasmin from Aspen Coffee Roasters.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning. Jasmin, how are you doing? How's the morning going?
Good. Everything's been going really well here. A little hectic start. We've only been open a few months, but it's wonderful, being here and being a part of this. So
perfect. So I have to say, and I'm just going to sit on this for a hot minute because my hours are typically like 9 to 5, but I noticed that you folks are open right at 7.
Yes.
What
right.
time are you in here?
Our staff do come in at 6:30.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it is a bright early morning for us over here at Aspen.
Perfect. No, that's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about Aspen Coffee and how you folks got started?
Yeah, so we actually started back in 2017. It's a family business.
Mm-hmm.
So my stepdad, my mom, my stepbrother, and myself are kind of the little group that's involved.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And yeah, back in 2017, my stepdad and mom actually were on a holiday, and they ended up running into a couple, meeting this couple randomly at a bar, started chatting with them, and they were coffee roasters from Australia. They left the bar and kind of had that, in the back of their mind. What an interesting thing. They're kind of super interested in that ever since. About a year later, randomly ran into the same couple at the bar. And
oh, wow. The coincidences, yeah.
So they kind of just thought it was a stroke of fate.
Okay.
And, they went to visit the couple down in Australia, got to know all of the history behind their roasting, their cafe, the culture of coffee in Australia itself. And then brought that all back here, and that was 2017. We bought the roaster, and here we are.
Taken away. No, that's fantastic. I always find that it's interesting that many people attribute starting their businesses up to coffee shops. We conceived it in a coffee shop, and we took it from there.
Yeah.
But the founding of the coffee shop here
started
was in a
the
bar. Yeah, which I have to say, I don't think I've ever walked out of a bar with anything tangible. I'm this is and the next morning I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to say. But it's impressive that they didn't just bump into them once, but multiple times. It's almost like a stroke of fate or destiny.
Exactly, yeah.
No, that's amazing. Yeah. Do they still remain in contact with them? Are they inside part of the business?
Since then, the gentleman that was the wife and husband of the couple, he's actually passed.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
I believe the wife is still running the company with her son there. But I think they kind of lost a little contact over COVID the last couple years ago. So.
No. Okay, perfect. Sure. I was going to say, I know that you have the this location. When we walked in, I must say, from textures to the colors to everything, very welcoming. Very I must imagine the answer is going to be yes. But was there a lot of thought put into making it as welcoming and warm?
So much of it was, we definitely wanted to go for that nature walk in the park, kind of grab a coffee with a friend, reconnect to earth, reconnect to yourself, kind of atmosphere and vibe with it. So even, it goes as far as the Aspen leaf. We put texture in the logo. We wanted really to bring everything from the outside world in to create such a home away from home, a space where you feel really connected to nature and rooted in yourself and everything. So, that's one thing we really tried to bring in with all of the different textures and the colors and whatnot. So yes.
Yeah, I have to say, I have a light background in design, and immediately I was time was spent. It's bizarre. You can walk in and be this building was made and someone moved in, but then there's always a lot of thought was put into just the flow of it and everything. We'll be showing you folks here shortly, but it's very interesting. Even the color scheme, I have to say, I love how the colors all just blend together. And immediately, as soon as I walked in, could also be because it's cold outside and it was just nice and warm in here. But
it
smells
I was like coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I was this is all so welcoming. Wow, they thought this through. I'm yeah, of course they did. But yeah, I have to say, as soon as I walked in, the very first thing I got was very warm, very cozy, that kind of atmosphere and energy. So yeah, kudos, well done. That was nailed. So I have a question and a series of questions that I always have to ask because you are the professionals of the field. I disagree with this statement, but I hear it often where people say, coffee is just meant to be consumed in the morning, and that's it. Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
Yeah, no. I remember like when I used to work at like my old job, like we did a lot of like very fun government work, but like so in the morning, we definitely needed the coffee to be out there at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. when they had these announcements. But always like around like after lunch, it was like that almost crash where I was like, I need something, otherwise like
gotta keep going.
I'm gonna be useless till 5. And then and I always had one, and everyone was like, you know, I used to have those in the morning. I'm like, says who?
Yeah,
I like couldn't even find this online. So what are your takes on like that?
I'm definitely an all-day coffee girly. You know, I drink it from the bright of day to the end of the night.
Oh.
We do also have decaf. You know, people love a good decaf latte. I also think so many people, though, are getting away from drinking and whatnot even in the evenings and coming for a late night coffee and a late night snack. We are open till 7 p.m. on Saturdays, so it is kind of nice to connect over a evening like warm beverage and a coffee sometimes rather than, you know, going out to dinner or drinks. It's just a little bit more, I guess it's just a different scenery.
No, 100%.
For sure,
and
but
yeah, many places attribute, like I said, like I heard so many things. Like I had to Google some facts just to like be able to be like, coffee facts. And I guess like the Bank of America and the New York Stock Exchange were founded in coffee shops. Yeah, the owners just met up for coffee, and they're like, we're gonna do this. Like I'm sure it was a lot more complicated than that, but like and I'm like, so coffee shops are always like. Do you often feel like as an owner like, you know, when folks are like coming in and you're like, oh, they're about to like meet for a great idea, or like, you know, like they're about to like.
I wish I'd start eavesdropping.
You're just like, and they're writing it down, like, no, I got that idea first, but like, like that. Do you have that kind of energy, where, like, and feel that like every now and then, like, oh yeah, they're like. They're here to meet. They're here to connect.
Something great is happening. Yeah,
exactly.
We definitely do have a lot of people come in and, you know, have meetings and sit down for those one-on-ones and those sit-downs. Even people bringing laptops in, and you can tell they're really kind of zoned into their work. So, you know, I'm a believer that people are out here doing great things, and great environments can help create different atmospheres for that. So, you know, I like to think that we're an atmosphere that brings out positivity, brings out good ideas, brings out the creative side of people. So hopefully, you know, always good ideas.
Fantastic. I was already like again, like the relaxed atmosphere here.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Now I have to ask one that like might be a little controversial. You did say you're a coffee girly. I'm a coffee person too. I know that many people always tell me, and maybe you can help debunk this or not, they always try to goad me into, because I have members of my family who are like, tea, and they're like, instead of the morning coffee, if you had a morning tea, the caffeine is very similar, yada, yada. Is this true, or is this like something that, you know?
I think it depends on the tea you're drinking.
Okay.
Lots of tea, you know, it does have caffeine content in it, but the volumes are quite smaller. Again, you know, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not gonna act like one, but I think your body levels kind of adjust to whatever you're consuming. And for me, you know, I do drink about 4 to 6 coffees a day probably.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know how much the caffeine is even doing for me, as much as the placebo effect now. I think it just definitely depends. On our menu, we do carry a couple different teas. We do try to go for, you know, not the sweeter things. So like we have a chai, for example, and a lot of people, when they kind of get a chai or a matcha even, they're expecting that sweet kind of flavor that, you know, Starbucks and whatnot kind of has. But we're really going for like the natural, this is what it's supposed to taste like kind of flavors. Our chai has that spicy flavor to it. So I do like starting my morning, you know, with a chai with a little bit of kick to get me going in the morning as well.
Perfect. No, it's amazing. And speaking of coffees here, I'm going to do my best to dance around this because I'm no expert. What types beans do you carry here? There we go. I'll open to that.
So we actually bring in a whole bunch of different beans. We use a bean broker and get beans shipped in from all over the world. At the moment, we mostly just have on our menu single origin beans. And that's just because whatever's in stock available at different times, it's like farming, you know, different things are available at different times. So we bring in what the best beans are for that time of the season. Roasting different things. We have a bunch of different flavors. The coffee actually has flavor in it itself. So we don't. Lots of people think we add to get, the caramelly, chocolatey flavor, to get the marshmallowy flavor, to get the fruity flavor. That's actually just the bean itself, and then how we roast it. So we have a fruity bean, an Ethiopian bean. It actually sits in the cherry longer, so it absorbs so much of that cherry fruit flavor, and it comes out fruitier tasting. And then just different altitudes, whatnot, and what else available. So we've got beans from Brazil, Costa Rica, Mexico, Colombia, Ethiopia, Honduras, all over, you name it.
Yeah, international. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are there, forgive my ignorance here, because I'm just going to educate the audience on you. But are there certain seasons where you find folks are waiting for certain items that only grow, like you said, regionally? I must imagine it has to be the same thing too. You can't get this in the summer, you can't get this in the winter. Obviously here, I don't know, I'm always surprised of the stuff we can get here because of the cold. But do you find that there are certain regions that are that only you can only get it at certain times?
There definitely is, but I think kind of the workaround for that, and why a lot of places actually kind of go for a blend, is a blend, because then if the coffee you want from Colombia is not available, you can get a very similar one tasting from Brazil. So you can just mix those different amounts to acquire the same flavor for a blend. For us, we like to bring in single origin. We do have a couple blends as well, but we'd like to have different flavors from different places, and we always kind of have an option. Like if you're really looking for a chocolatey tasting bean, we will always have something like that on our menu, as opposed to it's always going to be a bean from Brazil. So it just kind of creates options and a little bit more variety. And it's fun to taste different stuff.
No, of course, yeah. I've noticed, even on the shelf there, there's a plethora all over, and it's interesting. Maybe I just do not have the tongue for it, because all coffee is amazing to me. But that's usually because I'm consuming it to wake up and ready to go. So I'm anything will do. But I know that many people are trying to try out the different beans. But as I was obviously Googling to try to keep up here, I noticed that there really seems to be only 2 that are kind of utilized of the 4. I think. Am I right? Wrong?
You're talking about the varieties,
yes.
I think, yeah. So, it really does just depend. For our single origin varieties, they kind of are a blend of a bunch of different things as well.
Okay.
We do have all our beans are fully labeled with all of those descriptions. But no, people mostly go for the Arabica, or that's kind of just a very basic starting point of jumping into coffee. Is a black hole of, you can just never stop consuming knowledge and information, and caffeine itself.
No, it's we're even I don't know if you can see, we're already it's delicious, awesome. Yeah, it was interesting, because I was I will try to up my coffee knowledge so I can have some, so I'm not just completely ignorant to it. But then everyone's for the most part, Arabica is the method to go, and they're and then you'll have the folks who if they're really diving into their coffee, will do Robusta. And then then there's other mythical ones that never really see the light of day on a commercial space. And I'm what? And I tried to dive deeper and was I think I'm going way too deep here. But is there a reason? And again, forgive the ignorance here. Is there a reason that things tend to shift more towards Arabica, I found, than Robusta?
Honestly, a lot of it, I think it's a word that people know in coffee. So it's just an easy grab. If I market my coffee that way, then it's just something that people can relate to. I think, when you really jump into it and jump into the world of coffee, it is so much bigger than that. You look at, McDonald's and whatnot, I think that they market that way, and it is because it's that higher grade kind of thing, and that's basically people's knowledge of it. So it's just a grab point, I think, is why. Yeah. Brilliant.
No, it's it worked. Because I'm oh yes, of course, Arabica. Yes, of course. And I'm and again, it took me a while to understand that just because it's called Arabica does not mean that's the only place it grows.
Yeah.
And that was a nice fascination. To hear that I think the biggest exporter is Brazil.
Yeah.
So I was oh, and then in my head I'm like, why isn't that called Brazilica? And I was like, well, but then that was a whole deep dive of like the history of it and everything. Interesting, you mentioned that you carry an Ethiopian single source, because I did not know this. Folks at home don't know if like top 10, Google facts that Gabby looked up. Apparently that is where coffee originated.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I did not actually know that myself. So.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully this is true, and like later I'm not like editing to be like completely false, no proof, no evidence. It's something about a goat farmer who began to blend it, and then it just slowly picked up, and it went around the Arab Peninsula. Then that's how it slowly got everywhere. But again, as soon as I hit the sources page, I was like, I don't know if this is true. But then it does make sense why. Like many times I've seen like Ethiopian like blends or like Ethiopia. I'm like, why Ethiopia? What? And then like it's always like highlighted as like a yeah. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, that's where it's from. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Okay, yeah. See, it's a black hole of
Yeah,
knowledge. You just learned something.
And the more I clicked, the more I was like, I think I'm just gonna ask these questions. And then if they're like absolutely not, I'm like, okay, great, that makes sense, because I was just trying to do any sort of research and trying to like move it along to know something, so I'm not like completely like clueless in the wind here. And then the question of like this one I was completely flabbergasted by, because many shops do a lot of dark roasts, and I always assumed, I'm like, yeah, max caffeine, and everyone's like,
yeah.
So
it's the least.
So
lighter roast actually has the most caffeine in it, just because when you're in the roasting process, you're heating up the beans, and they actually lose their caffeine water weight. They as they get darker. It depends on the bean though, how you want to roast it. If you roast, a particular bean, and you're looking for certain flavors, you'll have to roast it to a medium roast, a dark roast, or a light roast, kind of depending what notes you want to bring out, because it does change as you bring it through that process. But yeah, so a lighter roast actually does have the highest caffeine content. I don't think it's by much, but dark roast does definitely lose it as it continues through that process.
Fascinating. So one of the facts was actually an actual fact. Yeah, so far. So far it's like 1 for 5. I'm like, these are very questionable. So then I have to ask, like, the family business, obviously started up mom and dad.
Yeah.
How did they get you involved in that?
So I actually graduated business a couple years back now, and when I graduated, I had kind of ran a couple different companies. They were very much roasting just kind of part-time for friends and family. They both have, full careers on their own. It was very much a side passion project. And they kind of just asked me if I wanted to get involved. My stepbrother, Lucas, as well, is involved with me. And so we kind of just jumped into it and again started diving into that coffee world. And it just takes you away. It takes you on a trip for sure. So once you just keep getting the knowledge and the information, we just kind of decided to do it. We were running a really small little cafe just with our roastery before, and that was during 2020, I think, till 2021. About a year. It was during that COVID kind of phase, very small, you couldn't sit in, and then an opportunity arose where we were moving out, so we kind of decided to, create a full space and want to make it that welcoming, open door for people. Even the design from COVID, so much of us, we decided to kind of bring in, we wanted it to be a home away from home.
Yeah.
Us being a mixed, blended family, my mom, my stepdad, and my stepbrother, we have a bajillion other siblings as well, but we wanted to create a space where it was a home away from home, where people can come visit and can reconnect with their families. And even if you look at the design, we kind of created it that way, like the living room kind of chatting area. You want it to be welcoming and whatnot. That's how I got that. They just roped me right in.
They're just like, it's you,
help.
and you're like, all right, cool. Like, it's family business, kind of, and you're like, all right, fair enough.
Exactly.
No, like that's fantastic. It's always interesting to hear, like, because we've been interviewing many folks about their local businesses, and then like the stories are not too like far off. I'm always like really hoping that it was my choice and I came in, instead of like they made me work on the weekends, and then I was just like, well, I guess I'm here. But yeah, it's always fascinating to hear that like you kind of came in. Obviously, COVID was a very, very interesting time. Our first run of the series was kind of like just coming off the cusp of that thing. So when we're trying to interview many businesses, it was just a lot of like, yeah, so hopefully next summer I'm here, and I'm like, oh boy. So interesting to hear that kind of pivot of like, you're like, Kate, not here, we're going to move. Were you kind of eyeing the kind of Ritchie area?
Yes, yeah, we definitely were looking at this area, you know, the community, the just how much it's developed, even with, you look at Happy Beer Street, how much that's kind of bringing people into this local area. So we really kind of wanted to base around here and have that local walking distance. There's a ravine not too far. White Ave is, you know, just around the corner, and it is such an up and coming area with, you know, new ideas and a new spark of life. So we definitely wanted to be a part of that.
Oh, and I have to say, like, the Ritchie community has been fantastic to us. Every single business we've walked into is like, who are you interviewing next? And we're like, we have a list. And they're like, no, you're going to do these folks over there. I'm like, okay, gun to my head, sure. Like, we'll contact them, we'll reach out. But like, yeah, because you came to us, we have to shout him out, otherwise never hear the end of it, because we know Austin. But Austin from the Monolith, who have Beer Street, was like, have you done Aspen Coffee yet? I'm like, not yet. They're on my list. I will get to them. Like, no, do Aspen Coffee. Go chat them up. They're fantastic people. I'm like, okay, we'll do it. Yeah. And it's like, it's always impressive that like every kind of business in Ritchie will always like, and this is not saying that outside of Ritchie this happens or anything like that, but like, I'm always impressed by the sheer ability, like that community sense of like, they know what's around them. Yeah. And they're like, you have to go check out them. You have to go talk to them, chat them up, because like, we love them. We love their coffee. In your case, like, we love their beer. Like, it's like
the internal amount of support is, you know, phenomenal.
Have you found that like the community here has that kind of energy of like, they want to almost like, I don't want to say like shop local to like do that kind of, but like they're very much like, no, coffee from here, beer from here.
Very,
like,
very much so, and it has been fantastic. You know, it's been such a great time being part of this community. We've chatted with a few of the different breweries as well. We do have our liquor license, so that's one thing we kind of wanted to do is create craft beers with the local breweries. You know, anytime the staff, we go out for a drink, we pop around to all of the different shops, and they're all like, oh, it's the Aspen gang. Yeah. So, you know, just the recognition is super nice as well.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just, you know, a community within a community. So it really is fantastic.
Yeah, it's always good to see. Like, I feel like, and again, not to take it down that dark hill, but like in the kind of post-COVID, I want to say, era that we're in, this essence of like community, having folks kind of come together, very important, probably very integral to make things happen. I mean, like, you were telling us about like the neighbors you have even right beside you, and how like you kind of tailor things like, oh, they're opening, we're going to open. Like, you're all kind of working together because you recognize that like, hey, we're all businesses. Like, we will in the after hours come hang out there. Exactly. You in the mornings will come, like, and like it's like very like intermingled, and like there's this like giant sense of community, and welcomingness, and like I've definitely felt it. Like, even the impressive side of it is like going down the street and kind of visiting, like, is it the Biera kind of?
Yes, the Biera Market. Yeah,
and it's like multiple different shops in there working together. I'm like, I like this. I like the feel of this. This is like much better than like more of the chain. Chain. But like there's the feel of like knowing like it's family owned. Knowing that like literally I was like, hello, may I speak to someone from Aspen? And then Jasmin was like, yep. I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. So it was a very nice feel to know that like the faces behind everything. Do you find that more people are kind of leaning towards that?
I definitely think it's going, you know, a little bit in that direction. I think it's, people really want to support small. They want to see people succeed. You know, it could be whatever it is, but it is a community of people coming together to, you know, bring each other up and to build each other up and to create that environment. So I think that, you know, it's just especially in this area, in this particular area, especially, I think that's really high value. So no, I'm really happy to be a part of it.
No, fantastic. That's always awesome to hear. I wanted to ask, because I have seen the ads for them and little signs everywhere.
Yeah.
You had mentioned to me earlier that the flights that you have
The
kind of
coffee
were the thing that like super took off.
Yeah.
How did that kind of come to be?
We actually had the idea before we had even moved into the space.
Oh, wow.
Being on Happy Beer Street, you know, it was something that kind of came up. How we don't want to compete, obviously, but how do we stay, you know, a part of the community? And that was one of the ideas that came up. Of course, we open and, you know, everything gets carried away. But one thing we encourage our staff so highly, I love all our staff, is fantastic, but is to have that creative side, is to what's going to set us apart, what's going to bring us, you know, a different kind of perspective, what's new, what's interesting. And it actually came about that a couple of the staff members said we make all our syrups in house, and we were coming up with so many different flavors, which were all tasting so good. A couple of them had also came up with the idea, so we just plopped it right into action. And we originally had, I think, like 13 flavors.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little hectic. But now we've just dropped it, and we're doing a feature for every month. So we're changing the 4 options for the flight every month. But yeah, it's super interesting. It's definitely, you know, kicked off an entire wave of people that are interested in coffee flights. We had somebody drive in from Vancouver, actually. I think we might have we must have been the first cafe kind of to start doing this. Someone drove in from Vancouver, and they said to me, it's funny when an idea seems so right in front of you, but no one else has done it, that it just becomes such a hit, such a, you know, interesting point for people to start. And now I've seen a few other cafes, you know, taking after us, of course, and doing the coffee flights, which is fantastic. You know, I support that as well. An idea is just, you know, as good as the next idea. So we're just always trying to come up with new things as well, and keep it interesting.
Yeah, and it must be amazing to like kind of originate this and then know that, like, because sometimes, you know, like I do a lot of film, so I'll throw an idea and then it's like, I'm like, oh, okay.
Is anyone gonna bite?
Yeah, I'll just take that back. But then you throw an idea and then everyone's like, and then you like see it grow and you're like, is it a good idea? And then like I feel like it's always kind of a nice compliment to be able to throw out that idea, know that like someone drove in from like Vancouver to come do it, and then like now you're seeing it everywhere else, and you're like, well, that was us.
Yeah.
You know? So
little pat on the back.
No, that's amazing. You said that like you'd kind of come up with it together, like with the staff. Are they typically like heavily involved in kind of like new flavors and like new creations? And ideas,
so that's one thing is you know, we want people to have passion. We want people to have. Let's have an experiment day. Let's come up with the craziest thing you can think of. Let me know what you need, and we'll set that up to get that organized. And maybe it sucks, you know. So not everything we've tasted.
I have to imagine there has to be a chopping block where you're like, this was nice, maybe not public. Yeah.
No, but so many of the ideas arrive from the staff, and that is such a fantastic thing about having, you know, such a creative group of people working with us, is they want to be a part of this, and they want to have those ideas, and it is fun and it is interesting for them. So I mean, most of the ideas with the flight flavors do kind of come from them and experimenting and just, you know, figuring it out as you go. So
and it's always impressive because like to me, I always think like anytime I go to a place, I often have this, like not all the time, but I'll go to a place and I'm like, I don't know what I want. And then my immediate thought is to be like, well, obviously, ask the person who's working there. But many people are like, no, like, would they know? I'm like, well, actually, if they're helping kind of curate the menu, pretty sure they would know. Do you, like, what is the kind of number one recommendation? Like, if I walked in right now and I was like, I need caffeine, please, where would you kind of steer me?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the drinks that are on the menu, I think people get a little confused because a lot of the drinks are just to designate the sizing.
Okay.
Sizing of the drink and how the milk is steamed. So I would like a flat white, kind of is like just a smaller little latte. I like a flat white because it's just a little bit less milk. So I would steer you towards my go-to. And then any of our house-made syrups is always a great recommendation. Everything that we make for the house syrups are all, you know, made here, so they're all.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
as well. Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
It's very homey. We try to keep it very internal here. But yeah, so one of my favorites is the cinnamon syrup. Little dash of that's always great in a coffee.
Oh,
yeah.
that's the Jasmin special.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. There you go. And then on top of that, you also do. I've noticed. Yeah, menu. You'll do. Is it just breakfast or even beyond?
Yeah, so it's just kind of, well, breakfast. It's all day.
Okay.
So we, you know, can definitely cook you up a breakfast sandwich at 5
Oh, that's
p.m.
awesome. Those are always the best.
It's the way to do it sometimes. Yeah, so we do have a full menu there. We had, you know, an opportunity to work with a fantastic chef. And so he helped us kind of curate a great menu. I really am a fan of everything that's on there. But yeah, breakfast, sandwiches. We do some private events here as well that we've done.
Oh,
and for
perfect.
those kind of events, we do try to switch the menu up to do a little bit more dinner style. You know, we've featured some charcuterie boxes and stuff here during some of our show nights that we've had. A couple of our baristas are singer-songwriters, so we've done performances with them here. Yeah.
Just like the sheer talent here, like wow.
Yeah,
very
it
impressive.
is. Yeah.
No, that's always great to see. Like again, I don't know how else to describe it to you folks at home. They have to come down. Maybe not right now, or maybe do, but don't stop this. But yeah, it's just fantastic. I typically try not to because I was always taught in like film school, if you're ever offered something to drink, you just like stay focused and don't. But like even as you're talking, I'm like it's actually so delicious. Yes,
Good,
it's
yeah.
fantastic. And
Thank you.
I decided, for whatever reason, not to have my coffee today. Because I was like, well, obviously, yeah. I'm like, obviously, I'm going to come here, like, and I'm going to have coffee here. That's how it's going to work. I know, yeah, no. Rekha is behind cameras, just like, yeah, very excited. She gets to enjoy her coffee. I still have to interview. But
Slowly sipping.
yeah, I'm just like, yeah. And I don't want to be like in between a thing where like dead air. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And then have my instructors be like, we told you. I'm like, I know, but it's really good. What can I say? But I was wondering if we could possibly go through and see some coffee being made, or go through some of the items.
Yeah, let's do it.
One thing I would love to kind of visit, because it's very apparent when you walk in here, maybe not in this shot, but the awesome roaster. So
Yeah.
I would love to see that first, walk in there, smell that awesome coffee, and then we can look at some food and items.
Yeah,
That's okay?
definitely. Let's
Sweet.
do it.
Okay, folks, we will be right back.